Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Profit Minds podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen 𝐒𝐿𝐻, creator of the Profit Minds Growth System, a unique blend of profit growth, productivity acceleration, and building robust business process for scale. In every episode, I interview entrepreneurs and small business owners from around the world with a unique story to tell. You can find the show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. So hello, everyone. Today, my guest is Matthew Stafford, the managing partner of Build, Grow, and Scale, a company that helps e-commerce businesses grow and scale. Today, we're going to talk about website optimization. Welcome, Matt.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, so I start every podcast the same way. Want to hear your story. How did you get to be the managing partner of Build, Grow, and Scale?
Yeah, it was not your typical path. So I actually, when I graduated, I bought the business of the guy that I was working for, and it was manual labor. Eventually, I worked into, we were doing seawalls along the canals in a northern Michigan town. And eventually people were like, oh, well, while you're here doing this construction, could you pour my patio or could you pour my sidewalk and things like that? So I hired some guys that did concrete. We started doing that. And about 4 or 5 years later, we became a concrete business. And I ended up growing that to the point where we were pouring Walmart's, Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, all the big box stores, and traveling around the country about 200 days a year.
Oh, wow.
And so that wasn't great for a family life. And so I started trying to figure out what to do that I could get a little better, have a better family life. And I went to a Tony Robbins event. And at the Tony Robbins event, he was selling a program called Money Masters, which was highlighting all these different people that were making money online. And I thought, wow, that's very interesting. I'm 20 years into this concrete business and realized I'd never sold anything online. And back then, it wasn't really that normal.
So when was this?
About 13 years ago, 14 years ago. Yeah, actually, no, I take that back. It was probably closer to 15 or 16 years ago because it took me about 4 years to sell everything with a concrete business. I had 2 brick and mortar salons and was 100% full online about 12, 13 years ago. So yeah, it was a long time ago. But in that journey, he would send out a DVD of these people that were making money online. The very first one was Frank Kern. I don't know if you've heard of him, but
I have.
yeah, he was selling an ebook on how to teach your parrot how to talk, and he's making like 50 grand a month. And I thought, oh, wow, like all I've ever done with my computer is emails and blueprints. I never thought about making money online because if I did that, I wouldn't have to worry about the weather, wouldn't have to worry about travel and all the expenses of having this big concrete business. And so I started playing around at night, learning SEO. And I realized within a year, I didn't really like that at all. It wasn't something that I was going to enjoy doing. And about that time, a website came along called Teespring. And what it was they basically created a platform where you could create a campaign to sell stuff, and it was t-shirts, and you'd put a design on the t-shirt, run ads to it. And then at the end of the campaign, however many you sold, they would print and ship it to them. So there was no work on my end other than coming up with the design, putting it on the shirt, and then running ads at it. And I could do all of that from my computer. And so I started playing around with that, and that took off for me. Within about 3.5 years, we ended up selling about $15 million worth of t-shirts. And
wow.
Did a lot of it in the name and name category where back then you could go, we basically created like browser tools where we could get the user ID off of a Facebook profile. And so we could target everybody with the last name of um, Jones or whatever. And the first one that I did was the last name Schmidt. Because I always try to think of, funny sayings or things that, everybody's not thinking of. And so I created a shirt. It was Schmidt Happens. And
Ah,
that literally, I got it all done. It was basically just a like Nike's font, just print, and I put it out and targeted everybody with that last name and started the campaign and ended up going and having dinner with a friend of mine across town. And when I got home that night, I logged in to see what was going on, and I'd already sold about $10,000 worth of t-shirts. And I was like, oh my goodness, this works. Up until that point, I probably launched 15, 20 designs and sold 4 or 5 shirts each. And, some worked, some didn't. Most of them lost a little bit of money. But thankfully, with the concrete business, I had enough spare income that I could kind of work on stuff and figure it out and test. But this one really took off. And I think that was my first shirt that ended up doing over $100,000 worth of sales. And I was like, oh boy, if I can replicate this. And so we started doing, we got better and better at designing them. Like I said, 3 years later, I'd done about $15 million worth of shirt sales, sold my concrete business to a couple of my employees, sold both salons, and I was full-time online within 4 years.
wow.
Yeah.
So how did you move from that to the website optimization business?
Yeah. Perfect. That's the next phase of my journey. um, that platform made some poor decisions because it grew really fast and really blew up, and it kind of started to go away. Well, what we noticed is we were driving all of these sales and leads to them, and they were keeping them, and we didn't get the emails, so we couldn't remarket and sell to the same people again and again. And we kept asking them for our data, and they wouldn't give it to us. And so we realized, okay, then we're going to have to go do it on another platform. And we moved over to Shopify. And though, so once we got onto Shopify, I thought, oh man, it's going to be super easy. We uploaded a bunch of products, built a store, and started selling. And we were making 100, 200 sales a day. I didn't realize that there was a whole lot more stuff to do because they had always done it with their platform.
Right.
I didn't realize there was a lot for us to do with the website. And so for the first couple of months, we made lots of sales. And then over time, it started getting worse and worse and worse. And I didn't understand. And we had made enough sales that we made an investment in inventory and bought about $250,000 for the kitchen slicers from China. And so we had them in the back room, and the site continued to perform less and less and less. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I have $250,000 worth of these slicers. I gotta figure this out. And there was a guy that I found online that was selling 6 phone calls to teach you how to do Google Analytics. And I'm like, okay, if I can look at the data and figure out what's working on my site, what's not working, I can make it work better. And within the 6 calls that I did with him, there was one each week. By the end of the 6 weeks, we were back to 300 sales a day and really cranking again and making a bunch of money. And so what I did was I reached out to a few people that I had sold t-shirts with because there was a group of us, about 5 or 6 of us, that kind of shared. I always said a rising tide raises all ships. And so I'll share what's working for me, you share what's working for you, and we'll all do better. And that's what happened. We all did very well. And so I reached back out to them because they were on Shopify at that point too. Said, hey guys, I think I've figured out some stuff. Like, um, let me play around, and if it works, you guys can pay me. If it doesn't work, you don't have to pay me. You're not on anything. And they're like, okay. And the first site that I did it with, they were doing about 300 to 400,000 a month. And within 6 months, we had them at 2.7 million. And
per
then
month.
per month. Yep. And then the next one I did, they had done 2.75 million the year before. And within 90 days, I had them at a run rate of 8.2 million. And they ended up selling about 16 million that year. So I was like, okay, 3 months in on both of them, 3 to 6 months in on both of them, and we, 8x'd and doubled and tripled their sales. Um, I'm not crazy. It didn't just happen. Like I wanted to make sure that I didn't get struck by lightning, and it worked really well for me, but not everyone else.
Right, right.
And so I realized it was very repeatable, and I thought, wow, I enjoy this a lot more than I do launching campaigns and running
Selling
ads and
t-shirts. Yeah.
doing all this stuff. And so um, at the time, I partnered with the guy who was teaching how to build sales funnels. And he was teaching his students what I was doing on the Shopify stores. And that's how Build, Grow, Scale became what Build, Grow, Scale is. And we ended up having, the largest e-commerce conference in North America for 3 years in a row, and grew it from there. And yeah, that's really
Wow.
that's my journey.
Wow. That's cool. So when you say the words website optimization, how is that different from, because you said, I don't like SEO.
Yeah.
Website optimization obviously involves, something different from that. So talk to me about what that means. Explain to us that what is website optimization?
Yeah. So SEO is, I'll first address the SEO and then go into the website optimization. SEO is essentially a way to drive traffic. It's a way to make you show up on the search engines. So when
Right.
people type in something that you want, you'll come up first.
Yep. Okay.
And website optimization is once the person's on the website, how do they interact with it? How do you get them to take the next most important action and create a sale? And so my thought process was, and it always felt broken to me when I was running ads, average e-commerce is about 2 to 3%. So that means for every 100 people that you send to your website, you get 2 or 3 sales. And I thought everybody else like, okay, drive more traffic. We need more traffic. And I'm like, well, I had 100 people raise their hand, come to my website, and only 2 or 3 bought. I feel like I can make my website better and get 2 or 3 more people to buy, and I doubled my revenue without any more ad spend. And so that really became the driving force for I want to figure out how to get double the sales from the same traffic. And then Dan Kennedy's old saying, he who can afford the most to acquire a customer will win. And I thought, well, if I'm making 6 sales per 100, they're making 3, I can spend more traffic, I can buy market share and grow very fast. And that's literally what's proved out for the last 12 years now.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So it's SEO is, you pay per click, right? Or the
Actually, SEO is
or
organic.
yeah,
Essentially, like
it
you
can
set
be
up
organic,
tags
it can
and
be right,
keywords
but
and yeah,
yeah,
yep,
but it's, when somebody searches for this kind of thing, then you wind up getting there. Some of the top ones always have the ad thing associated with it, but
yep. But
but
the thing is, like, so SEO can send you a whole bunch of traffic, but if your website
but if
is
but if
chunky,
nobody clicks, it doesn't matter how much
yeah,
traffic you get. So
yeah, right.
that makes a lot of sense. Okay. And what are some of the metrics that you look at? I mean, because obviously this is all data driven now. What are some of the metrics that you look at besides just how many clicks? Because
Yeah,
I'm sure
so
there has
it
to be more
really,
than that.
yeah, it's a lot more than that. It's really each part of the website has a different purpose. So, understanding the psychology of what a person's doing when they're visiting the website. Like when they get to your homepage, they're not ready to buy. They don't know you. There's no trust, no anything. So on the homepage, it's not meant for selling. It's meant for to develop trust. Is this what I was looking for? Okay, cool. Now how do I find what I want? And one of our discoveries through all the data and analytics is your most valuable traffic on your website is the people that use the search bar. And we had always said, like, oh, it doesn't matter if you only have 4 or 5 products, you don't need search. And unfortunately, we probably lost a lot of money the first couple of years by believing that, because what we realized is the people that use the search they convert twice as high as the site average, and they usually spend about 4 times as much as your average visitor. So we
Even so,
wanted,
even if you only have a few things to search for,
yeah,
because they're actually actively interacting with the site as opposed
and,
to just sort of looking at it.
and they're finding what they want. So we realized also people type in their problem. So we started tracking what people put in there. They're not just looking for a product. They don't just type product names. They'll also type in their problem. And so then we were able to adjust the site based off of what people were typing in. And a perfect example was we had a site that sold like stuffed animals that you would unzip them and they would unfold into a hoodie. Well, when we were looking at their traffic, the top two most searched terms were unicorn and unicorn spelled wrong. Well, they didn't have a unicorn and they had no clue that that's what everybody was looking for. So we had
Perfect.
them build a unicorn and they launched it on Amazon Prime Day and they did about 480 or $490,000, just short of a $500,000 in 24 hours.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's brilliant to understand what people, I mean, it's the same kind of thing when you want to look at, well, what are people searching for on Google, right?
Yeah.
You don't just look at the those search terms, but it's, what are the other things that they're looking for? What are the other questions that they ask? It's the
Yeah. What's
similar
the
kind of thing.
language that they use? Yeah.
Right. Now, d- do the things that you do apply to other kinds of businesses? Like I have a coaching business.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. So it's a great question. Um, the way that people interact with the website is typically fairly product agnostic. We use data to say, one, let's build the trust. We see how much time on page, we see how much they scroll, what buttons they click on, and then we optimize that to get them to take the actions that we want to get to the next step. So you would have your homepage, then maybe you have an opt-in if you have a coaching business, and you need them to book a call. So you get them to opt in and book a call. Well, that's very structured, and you have to think about, you have to enter the conversation that they're having in their head at that point. And I'll just use physical products as our examples today because it's really easy to draw the analogies so that people can understand. If you're looking for a blue dress and you come to the homepage and you realize, okay, these people sell dresses, the next thing that you want them to go to, maybe they sell blouses and leggings and all these other things, but the person came for a dress, you want them to be able to navigate to the dresses. So the next thing that you do, you always want to know what's the most important action that you want them to take on this page. So for us on the home page, we want them to click in the navigation and move over to a category, because now that's a micro commitment. Instead of us showing them everything, now we're showing them the category that they are interested in. Then you give them filters. So then they can go, oh, okay, I'm size 8 and I'm, you know,
blue
yeah,
and
blue and the different styles that the dress comes in. And then it's going to show them the 4 blue dresses that you have instead of the 1,200 products that you have of all these clothes and socks and everything. So now what's happened is instead of them having to find what they're looking for, they're looking at your 4 options. And then from there, you would click on one of those, it would take you to a product page. Well, on the product page is where you start making decisions, but you need certain information in order to make that decision. What's it made out of? What's the warranty? How soon do you ship it? How many people have left reviews, etc. So all of that happens on the product page. And then your next step is to get them to decide that it's for them and add it to their cart.
put it in their cart. Yep.
Yeah.
So how has AI impacted what you do?
A lot. So the reason why I say that is because we use Google Analytics and Tag Manager, extensively on every website. That's how we know what they're doing.
Sure.
Well, we've always had to manually go through that data and figure it out. And that's kind of, been what we're really good at. We've learned the psychology of a person browsing your website. Well, now we can actually take all of the platform's data, Shopify's data as an example, also import all the Google Analytics data and tell the AI, hey, our average order value is $100. We're converting at 3%. We would like our average order value to be $130, and we would like to convert at 4% in the next 90 days. Can you look at all of this data and give us several different ways that we could optimize this site using the data in order to achieve that? And it will literally build different roadmaps or suggest different things that we can test. And it takes some work to get good at prompting it in order to get the
Yeah.
data that
Yeah.
you want. Um, but that, we've worked on it ever since ChatGPT came out, almost 2 years ago now, and have got better and better at it. And so now, like almost everything that we do, we run it through AI, and it's the world's smartest assistant for $20 a month. It's like, it'd be silly not to use it.
Yeah. 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 So what's the biggest mistake that you find that these e-commerce sites come to you with? What's the worst thing that they do, or the thing that they do that impacts them the most negatively?
I would say that they think more is better. So, hey, I want to show you everything I sell. And what that does is it creates a mess and a messy site. And also, it also creates paradox of choice. So, just because you can offer a shirt in 12 different colors, um, by doing that, you actually lower your conversions compared to if you offer them three or four. Because what happens is they get there and they go, oh, I like this green one. Oh, I like this pink one. Oh, I like this purple one. I don't know which one I want. I'll just come back later. But if you have blue, black, and gray, they're like, oh, I like the black one. I'll get that one. It's kind of like, you go into Baskin Robbins. How long does it take you to pick your flavor compared to if you go to McDonald's and they go chocolate or vanilla? It's like one's really easy and the other one creates a whole lot of choices and a lot of time.
Yeah. What do they say? A confused mind never buys.
Yeah, 100%. It's very true.
Yeah.
And we always
Yeah.
say simplicity scales.
That's interesting. So um how do you talked a little bit about, getting into the mind of the customer, right?
Yeah.
How do you play with things like emotional intelligence, or those kinds of things?
Um, I think for me, the emotional intelligence is more the owner of the business. And why I say that is because I don't really believe that people have business problems. I think that they have people problems. And what I mean by that is, um, I can show if I have a client that comes to me and they're doing, $4 million a year, and I can go show them three or four other businesses in their same niche that are doing 30 million a year. So it's not, there isn't a market for it. It's not that it's not possible. It's that the people that they have aren't doing what's necessary in order to get them to that level. And so I really believe for the business owner to scale, the work that they do in the 6 inches between their ears is more important than what they do on the website because when they are a good communicator, they will start to understand the human psychology better and their websites will do better because that's really what we use in order to optimize the website. And that's why our principles haven't really changed. I'm very principle based. It's not like the latest trick or hack. It's stuff that always works because every website has a person on the other side that's viewing it and interacting with it. And if you understand that, you'll have a site that converts much better.
Yeah. So what are those principles for build, grow, and scale?
For the optimization of the website, we have like hierarchy of focus, which is each page has its own unique purpose and what's the next most important action. So on the home page, it would be that they click the navigation or learn more. On the category page, that they would use the filters, because people that use the filters end up converting much higher than the site average too. So essentially, search or filters, both those two things are your most valuable traffic. So giving people an option to pick what they're looking for and then showing them just that rather than showing them everything that you do. And that one thing will help the majority of websites. They go, oh, well, we do this and this and this. Well, let them pick the thing that's relevant to them, and then you literally get them to the next page that only talks about that, because you can be a lot more direct. You have more space. All of it works better. If you think about it, if all those people called you, I always ask them, if 10 people called you, how many would you sell? And the owners always say, oh, 6 or 7 for sure. I'm like, okay, well, your website's only converting one, 1 per 10, not even. So essentially your website's not having a good communication with that person. That's what we want to optimize. We want to make sure that they can find what they're looking for, instead of viewing your website as, here's all my stuff, I'm going to show you everything so you can buy some. Instead, look at your website as, I'm the consumer, how do I find what I'm looking for? And when you switch that lens, it sounds simple, but it's a profound change in the way that your website will function and operate, compared to, hey, I'm just going to sell you anything that you'll want to buy, to, I'm going to look for what I want. When I find it, then I'm going to get my information and be able to make a buying decision.
Right. It's again, it's making sure that you're communicating clearly to the right kind of information to the right kind of customer.
Yeah. And I also think the timing of the information is relevant as well. You see a lot of sites that are like, book a call or add to cart or buy now. And I'm like, man, I always ask the
I mean, right
owner,
at the very top of the page.
yeah, on
Huh.
on the homepage, and I'm like, okay, do you have it? Like, what's your average ticket price? Oh, 2,500 bucks. I'm like, okay, do they have enough information where you're asking for that commitment, for them to feel comfortable spending $2,500 with you? And they're like, oh, no, no, not at all. I'm like, okay, so now you see where the disconnect is. You see your website and you understand all of this, but from their standpoint, they don't even know why they should do business with you yet. And you're already asking for the sale, or you're already asking for their private information, their email, their phone, etc.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really key point, is again, you need to make it about them and for them.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. We look at websites a lot, and I always, when I read the copy, I tell them, I'm like, one thing that I notice is this whole website is all about you. So the customer doesn't feel seen, heard, or even understood. If you can describe their problem better than they can, then you're automatically going to be assumed that you have the solution. So it should be about 70% of the pain of what they're going through, maybe 20% the path, and then the last 10% is when you ask, that's when you ask for the commitment.
That makes a lot of sense. So if somebody wanted to reach out and get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, if you just come to buildgrowscale.com, we have a lot of free resources and information on there. You can go through it, or you can book a call with me, or even email me at matt@buildgrowscale.com, and I'd be happy to look through your website with you, do a Zoom call or whatever, and give you an audit of what I see, provide some value for you.
Oh, that's great. Thanks a lot. And that concludes our show for today. Thanks so much to my guest, Matt Stafford, the partner of Build, Grow, and Scale, a company that helps e-commerce businesses grow and scale. I hope you learned something about website optimization today. I know I did. Thanks a lot for watching. You've been listening to the Profit Minds podcast. This is your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch. Please visit www.profitminds.net for other episodes or to contact me. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. Thanks for listening. Have a grateful day.